Lunch is watching JoJo.
Yeah, rest in peace, Abdul. That was a bummer. He was brown and proud, and
Yeah.
he just got murked.
First rule of Japanese media: minorities don't matter.
He was treated like a real part of the cast, though. You know, I mean, he died immediately, but like, you know, he had a place that he got time to do cool things. You know, I was attached to him somewhat. He looked cool. He was well drawn. That's important, apparently.
I mean, everything in JoJo is well drawn.
Yeah, but often like ethnic character. Most brown characters in anime just looks like white guys with a different color. But sorry.
Or my favorite dark skinned character trait is the really big lips.
Yeah, well, I mean, like Abdul had big lips, but they were drawn more realistically than in other.
Oh no, I'm talking about like the cartoonishly big lips that a lot of anime gets away with.
Yeah. Well, the ones that people think is a bit racist. But it's kind of complicated.
Well, it is sort of funny because a lot of darker skinned characters in anime aren't even like what we'd consider like African descent. A lot of them are more your Okinawan or Southern Japanese.
Yeah, I think it's a bit weird how people project like American history onto a completely different context in this situation. I get, but at the same time, I like how Abdul is drawn more realistically, and that's nice.
One of the things I like about Araki's art style is he's able to like leverage both this realism and absurdity at the same time. Like, there's just a real attention to detail you don't see in a lot of pop media.
Well, even like everybody has lips drawn, which is like a thing that basically doesn't really exist in anime, or not to that level of detail. Like it's so.
Here, you can tell that Araki has been heavily influenced by horror because a lot of horror manga is heavily detailed, and you don't see a lot of shonen action manga that is as detailed as JoJo.
True. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, like in horror, it definitely makes heaps of sense because it's meant to be visceral, and so it's interesting that he's applied that same thing to an action series. But it gives it its own really unique identity. It's part of what makes it so strange, that it doesn't look exactly what you'd expect.
Well, and another nice thing is that like the art style of JoJo slowly shifts and evolves as Araki needs it. So it does part 4 onwards begins to be a bit more slender looking characters, and they end up looking a bit more cartoony and surreal. But it also fits. But also when you get back into something like part 5, where part 5 is a bit more grounded and edgy. I don't know if grounded is the right word, but it goes back into a bit more of that more rigid, muscular sort of. I feel like
Stardust Crusaders is jacked, which is fun.
Yeah, Stardust Crusaders is like the most jacked. Like, if you look at the comparisons between JoJo's portrayals and like Araki's newer styles, because Araki's like with the hardback release of the JoJo books like in the past few years, he's been redrawing characters, and all of in his newer art style, all the Jack boys are slender as fuck.
Interesting.
But still, JoJo is still more jacked than some of the other slender boys that get slendered down. Well, Jack boys that get slendered down.
It's interesting. I mean, because these characters are they're so. It's weird to think of them as not being way crazy beefy because there's so much loving fucking detail put into their backs. The back is where I really noticed it. Where it's nobody draws a back in this detail.
The difference is
every single part of it is bulging.
Part 4 onwards takes a more of an emphasis and focus on fashion than it does character builds. So you'll see these characters with
Right.
really highly detailed outfits, and with all like the symbolism and whatnot, especially in part 4 and 5, that you don't see in the first 3 parts. But the characters are also not as bulky or these impressively detailed body shapes. So it's kind of a trade-off where part 1 through 3 have relatively simple clothing, where part 4 onwards has some of the most like impressive outfits you'll see in manga.
Interesting. Well, I guess I'll get there when I get there.
Yeah.
It's cool seeing that, like that. Yeah, it's all the same series and same creator, but like he he explores his style and comes up with new shit.
Yeah, well, as I said, as I'll always say, Araki writes and draws whatever the fuck Araki wants to write and draw. Like,
Respect.
he's an artist in the truest form of the word. He doesn't, like, he just does whatever he feels like, and you gotta respect that. He doesn't. There's no pretense of like there's no pretense that Araki thinks like high of himself or he's creating like high art or whatever. He's just having fun with what he's doing, and
he's not like, and he's not playing it safe like just because it has a legacy and it's a loved franchise. He's not like, because other franchises that have been going on that long are like, shit, like we don't want to rock the boat too much or we might ruin it. But he's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna
part 8's like nearly like has been going on for almost like I think over 5 years, and we still don't know who the big bad is.
Oh shit.
There's ideas of who the big bad could be. There's clear rivals and power players, but there's no concept of who the big bad's going to be. Even like part 7, like we didn't really.
What
know
if
who the
there
big
is
bad
no
was.
big bad?
Yeah, but that'd be interesting. Part 8 is kind of a mirror of part 4, and part 4 is about like the small town horror that part 8 is also kind of incorporating into it. So I could definitely see there not being like a. Oh no, but still, Rocky, like part of what makes JoJo is like the big bad who gets like insane powers that the JoJo.
Yeah, well, maybe he's breaking. Maybe he's breaking another convention, man. Who knows? Well, he's reinvented the series before. He'll fucking
I will
do
say,
it
granted. I'll say, granted, one of the most interesting things about part 8 is that the stands are relatively mundane.
Oh,
like
interesting.
No, but that's mundane.
No, I mean that in an interesting way.
Yeah, like JoJo, like the part 8's JoJo, his ability, soft and wet, is to take properties from things. So he has bubbles that will go out and he'll make a bubble. And if somebody touches that bubble, he can steal away something. So like somebody's like eyesight or somebody's. And granted, it's probably one of the most overpowered stands in JoJo, but it's never used in a way that like you would think, oh yes, this is overpowered. It's rather underutilized. One of the stands is like just basically surfs through the internet to find information. Another stand is literally a guy's body is made up of bandages and he swings around and like does cool things with the bandages. But
it's not like there's that much crazy shit going on. It's more like what are interesting uses for powers that aren't that hardcore.
Part 8 is like probably one of the more fucked up JoJos, but at the same time, like it doesn't have like the craziest stands. It's more about the utilization than it is the.
I like that. Well, like it's fine for a show like JoJo. It's impressive and wise that he didn't just go for escalation rather instead of creativity. Because it seems like a show that is built to escalate, but like it, I respect that, and he found other ways to do so.
Well, yeah, and it escalates in different ways. Like part 3 through 6 all escalate like stand abilities. Like the stands get even more nuts as it's going through, but there's still like a streamline of logic of how these stands are operating. And then part 7 comes around, like, and in the grand scheme of things, like the stands in part 7 are nowhere near as powerful as the stands in part 6, but they're completely more fucked up in a different. I don't know if fucked up's right, but like they're entirely more imaginative in a different way. Like the functionality and the mindset behind them are entirely different. Like Araki can rewrite his own rules as he needs for the stories he wants to tell, and it's always interesting. You're always getting something new. Like it's all under this veil of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but each arc and each part is like its own unique story that with its own rules and logic.
I'm looking forward to discovering all this nonsense for myself.
Part 7's still the best part. Like Part 7 is like hands down just great. Like great characters, great conflict, great stands.
Yeah, I got no idea what happens after this part, because like the part that I'm watching seems like the most famous part.
Yeah, well, Part 3 is probably the most well-known part, but it's also because Part 3 was the only manga to get adapted over to America.
Yeah.
Around,
well, it had like an OVA as well before.
Yeah, like
so
yeah, Part 3 is the only one that had like real worldwide recognition before the David production anime came out. I can't wait to do a retrospective of Part 3 with you, and then talk about Part 4 when you're going through it and watching Part 5. And if you're interested in reading the manga before Part 6 comes out, because the manga is its own beast altogether. Like there are certain like things that the manga, like a different experience you get from reading the manga than you'll watch the anime. Which is a whole nother conversation.
I'm sure. Well, a lot of I think this really has to fucking try its best to capture the art style of the manga, but it seems much harder to do animation. And the first two stories, I think, had a lot more trouble than the current one at adapting it. It'll be really cool just to see the original.
Yeah, well, Part 4s and 5s work more as an adaptation. They take a bit more liberties, fill in some plot, like they do a better job of explaining things, filling some plot holes, or adding some anime original content.
I'm just talking about the visuals specifically, not like anything else about the adaptation.
Well, no, but like even so,
I'm
like
interested to see the original guy's artwork.
Oh yeah, no, but I was saying Part 4 and 5 like don't like stay completely like faithful. Like I mean, for example, Part 4 shifts art styles in like throughout the manga. Like it has a progression of like starting off beef and bulky, then ending like slim and stuff. Where in the anime they just keep the slim art style the entire way through, rather than shift like doing a panel for panel. Oh, he was buff here and then he was slender near the end.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Anyways, I gotta go. I'm a JoJo nerd. I'm sorry.
That's cool, man.